Book is something that we can find?
No, it's not a book. I wrote editorials and so on for the newspaper. But that was a significant moment in my life that I said, you know, there's an alien, there's a foreign philosophy of politics that is here that is not American. Okay.
And we still
and to realize that the wars that we have fought, whether it was in Germany or against the Japanese or the Nazis or the Vietnamese, we have been fighting against socialism and tyranny. And nowadays it appears that people are becoming, they either are ignorant of what socialism is,
very much so,
or they are becoming too comfortable with the concepts and the ideas about it. And I think part of my candidacy for a state representative, I want to be, as an educator, I want to try to educate what we are coming up against in the issues of socialism, and what the Marxist believes. And because we not only need to know who we are in terms of our constitutional commitments as a nation, but we also need to understand who our enemy is in order to understand what in the world is going on.
And understand what you're giving up if you think so.
Oh, yeah.
People always think, well, it's just the government helping the poor. They don't always realize what you give up for the government and those forms, that form of government. And that's what I've been trying to educate people, because you're absolutely right.
So my main message here in terms of being against socialism, we need to realize that socialism legitimizes, makes legitimate slavery.
Yes, absolutely.
Socialism equals slavery, in my mind, in my opinion.
You don't have to look at Cuba and other countries that have this form of government to know.
Yeah.
I mean, they get a house. I've seen documentaries. They get a house and they get a little bit of food. You cannot better yourself. I mean, there's just nowhere else to go. And you just get that little...
Yeah.
They literally live in little steel hovels. It was almost like a jail without the bars.
But there are other issues that lay behind that, and which I think we need to get into in terms of exploration and education of what those are. And and I don't know if you want to do that now.
Well,
but I don't want to give a complete lecture on socialism here. But we need to put up the warning flags.
Right, right. Well, we talked a little bit about, so you're, because we're going to run out of time, but we are going to do a part 2. So you're a conservative. So I want to, and you're for the Second Amendment for the state level.
Yep.
State sovereignty, you're very much for.
Yes.
What about? Oh, actually, I'm going to leave that for part 2, because with your background in education, that's going to be in-depth, because I would like to talk about what your thoughts on homeschooling in our education system as far as states, because homeschooling has been attacked across the nations. I don't know if you've seen that. California, if you're not an accredited teacher, they want to make you not. And Indiana has a so I'm sure your district and the rest of the state would like to know your thoughts on.
Yeah. Indiana is a very strong homeschooling movement.
Yes, it is. We actually, people don't realize it, and I didn't know it until the last 2 years, because my kids go to public school, but I did not know. We have one of the largest homeschooling populations in the country that I found was pretty amazing. So we're going to talk about that on part 2, because that's going to be... is there anything else before the show that you want to really say before we get to part 2 about what you want people to know about you as you're running for office?
I think one of my major commitments is in terms of the traditional family. Okay. But not just on the surface of things, that there are reasons why we need to emphasize that the family is indeed first. And I think that comes primarily out of my biblical background in terms of a minister and as an educator. That we need to pay attention to the issues that surround our families. People, I ask people, I say, what's the first institution? What's the first institution?
They never say family, do they?
They never say family. I mean, that the first institution was out of creation with Adam and Eve, and that's the first institution amongst the whole of mankind.
Well, we're going to talk about that in our second one, because we'll talk about dumbing down. They say that we've been dumbed down with our education, and maybe that's why people don't answer that question correctly. Are you, we didn't ask at the beginning, are you married?
Oh, yes, yeah.
Okay. Children?
Yes, I have one daughter.
Okay.
And she lives in Indiana here, too, so that's one of the reasons we moved back to be close to family and grandchildren.
Okay, so you're very family-oriented. Okay, so we've gotten a few things about you, and so I want to remind everybody of his website before we go. It was can we put it back up there? Tell me it again. There it is. It's www.powersforindiana.com, and it's info@powersforindiana, and once again, you're running for state rep in District 51. That covers, again?
Steuben and most of DeKalb.
Steuben and DeKalb counties, and if they want to get a hold of you to find out more about your issues, if they didn't feel they got enough information, the info@Powers is the email address.
Correct.
And we're not sure about the website, but hopefully by the time the show airs, we'll have everything up and running. But we are going to have a part 2 to this, where we can talk about a few more reasons why you're running for state rep. And before we end the show, and anything else you'd like to comment, we got just a minute left.
Well, I think it's important for people to know that my roots are actually in Steuben and DeKalb County both. That my grandparents were farmers in Steuben County, and my parents moved shortly after I was born into DeKalb County.
So you think you could represent the values of Hoosiers from being here and living there and now this district. So not only with your background, but being here, you know what Hoosiers are. Because Hoosiers, all states are very different, which is why the federal government should stay out. But yes, Hoosiers are I think we are family-oriented, and it's very important to us. Well, I want to thank you so much for coming on, and we'll see you on part 2, Dr. Powers. Thanks, guys, for joining in. We'll have it up on YouTube. Part 2. Watch it. Stupid Politics.